Why are there so many different interpretations and landing places that people talk about in regards to realization and awakening? It has everything to do with what you believe, where you're going to end up, and who you're following or what map you're following. Unless, of course, you truly, truly want to be free and you let all those maps go and you let go of the interpretations and the veils of imagination. You let them go over time, drop them, you keep dropping them so that you don't end up with any kind of landing place. And I'll share with you my own experience. There's no landing place here. If I wanted to model myself after some other types of teachers out there, historically or present day, that I admire, I would be imagining what I should be like and what my living should be like, what my personality or my realization should look like. And it's much better to throw everything overboard. Sure, one can have people that one admires and even trust. It's always a wonderful thing if there is someone worthy of trust, in terms of a teaching, a practice, or a teacher, But even then, we can be let down. Much better to learn how to trust what's reality. And one of the closest things to be able to come to in terms of trusting, and to me that models and mirrors reality, is the natural world and also our bodies. Because our bodies fundamentally in the end won't lie. They will. Our bodies are a reflection of the beliefs we hold. It will reflect that. And we will feel anxious and all this other stuff, maybe even get sick due to what we're believing and what we're holding, the traumas and all that. But it's still not lying. It's reflecting, So basically find your ground, what it is that you can stand on, that you feel in trust to. And for me, it's always been Mother Earth, you can just say Earth, and the body, because like I said, the body doesn't lie. So what is realization like here, right here? It's not at all what I began imagining what it would be, because how could it be, right? How could it be? And if I were to speak super frankly, like about it all the time, by the way, I do. I don't lie, and I don't misrepresent. And what I mean by frankly is that there's nothing to sell. There is nothing to get. There's nothing to realize in the end. It is just being here freely. If you want to call that a spiritual journey, that's what we've made up. We have made up all these milestones about it. We've called it realization, human-made word. Awakening. Out of what? Human-made concept. Into something. Human-made imagination. You end up being exactly where you were when you were born. When you were born. Before you took on a bunch of nonsense, before we did. We all do. Right? The idea of me, mine, all this stuff, where all these things arise out of insecurity and greed and competition, all this stuff that arises out of this virus that we've taken in called separation. And nature doesn't have that issue, does it? And we are made of nature. So if realization really is a thing, it's about coming back to the simplicity of what we truly are. And it isn't a getting to, it's a subtracting. It's a deconstruction project. Okay. And so it's not even a special thing. it's what I always say, and others maybe too, is that it's our birthright. It's our birthright to realize truth. And so realization to me is just simply the absence of pretense, pretending that there's a separate self here, imagining it, pretending, believing in it through different ways and means over time, which I've spoken about on my channel. It went poof. And I have to say that I wanted it with all my heart to come back to original nature. Maybe you remember inside of yourself before you became hypnotized and brainwashed into believing, because we all are brainwashed in many ways, into believing a lot of things. And the biggest one, the biggest hoax, the biggest pain, and causing the most harm is that there is a separate self that is intrinsically true, that needs to be protected against all of life, one another, that keeps us separate, right? And as I said, competition and greed and all that emerges out of that belief. Of course, there's a body here, and it's not your body. It's not my dog's body. It's not even a tree. And it is all one thing. We are all part of the one thing, not part. That even that English language creates division. That's a big problem already. Like when I said earth earlier, it's not the earth, turning it into an object. We are one as earth, right? Walking, talking, imagining selves as earth. So coming back to the idea of what awakening leads to freedom. Freedom is the main word, and we keep unhooking ourselves. I still am all the time. Oh my God, I took that to be true. Oh my God, this is where I've been hypnotized in life, in school, this is how we do this. This is how we do that, and it's okay to be part of a belief system, as long as it doesn't hold one hostage and veil reality as to, actually there's a choice here. There's a choice to participate in this way, this human created understanding, without being hypnotized and brainwashed to do it. It's probably one of the most radical things that we could do. The most radical thing that you can do, any one of us, is to become our natural selves again, from the way we were before conditioning set in, and especially the me sense and the collective virus of the separate self took place. That is the most radical thing you can do, because then it's like over time, you get to see in a wonderful way, not making everything wrong. Everybody's so wrong and bad. No. But just to see one's own participation in where we have been plugged into believing anything. Because once this big, main, gaping lie is revealed, that however you want to put it, it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. It's a huge paradox how we can still be unique and be nothing. But scientifically, as we very well know, they've discovered that emptiness is within, that everything in the end is made of space with very little matter, very little. And so are we. And that's my living experience. That's my lived experience in every given moment, without thinking about it. The only time I ever think about any of this is when I make a video, or I'm talking to someone, mentoring them, or doing the stuff that I love to do, by the way. That's the only time that it comes back to remember and think about and talk about. Otherwise, zero. It's so freeing. It's so freeing to just be here and not be a big fat deal. The nervous system is just gets to be emptied out, and you get to see, it's not quite the nervous system, where our personal cup, is overfull. taking a little too much news in, and some family stuff's going on, maybe some health concerns, whatever. My dog with her hip dysplasia as a, and she's not old, and these concerns come in the nervous system, which is normal. This is living life after all, and our world is, and very collectively full of angst right now. So we're going to feel it. We're going to feel it all. And so I'm like, oh, my nervous system cup, it needs to be, I don't think of it in that way, but it needs to be relieved, like through maybe some movement, some dance, some stretching, some body work, just, taking care of oneself, unplugging oneself a little bit from them, the news cycles and all that stuff. And getting one's feet on the ground, earthing. I do that every day. I do my stretching outside on the grass, and I walk around barefoot a lot. So whatever you can do to take care of your nervous system, because a nervous system that is not overwhelmed, because it's never fully empty. I mean, what is that? It's flexible, and then one is able to be more here without being triggered, without overlaying the moment with this anxiousness, and even being able to lean back with more trust in just being here. It's become harder and harder for folks to just simply be here. It's really sad, and it's not getting easier. I feel for everyone. I feel for us all. I feel for the earth, the plant life, the animal life, in terms of how wound up the human collective is right now, and what we're doing to one another and to our precious planet. So whatever you can do to unplug, to relieve that, so that you can come back to state more stasis, more regulation, nervous system regulation. Okay, really, really matters, way more than you realize, way more than anything you can do. It's like to be able to just sit here, be wherever you're doing, and be somewhat settled inside. Okay, it's coming back more and more to simplicity and to inner freedom of this projection onto the moment. The me sense projects a lot, and the conditioned self projects a lot. What we've been hypnotized to believe and brainwashed to believe, it colors every single moment, and it colors our idea about what realization, awakening, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. Enlightenment to me is like an end game product. It doesn't really exist. It's just we're enlightening, we're lightening up into, and we're becoming ever more deconditioned back to the natural state, to simply be here and have it be no big fat deal. It is no big deal. It's so ordinary. There are people that tell me all the time, you're just so ordinary in a way. Like, and that's what I meant earlier. Like, if I really spoke about what this is about, it's like, what? It's like, what? It doesn't sound like anything. And it's not to sell anything, but it doesn't sound like anything, because to get there is a process at times, right? It is, even if you go from A to Z, go through some of the paces, because the body and mind and nervous system isn't caught up to an awakening, a deep, profound awakening, aha experience. There's going to have to be an integration period, an embodiment period, So that's the stuff that I can talk about. I can talk about a lot of the stuff, and how powerful it is to work on the nervous system, how powerful and important it is to be able to, which helps you rest more as stillness, right? And then what we are is able to just kind of float to the surface more and more, at least it did for me, to where it just becomes less and less an idea, and more simply just living. In fact, if I had known what I know now, there wouldn't have been a journey, right? It wouldn't be something I could talk about. It would have just been like A to Z, and just being lived. But my being wasn't ready for that. It would have just blown my mind, like without being integrated. We don't want that, right? Some people are more ripe for it than others, just to be really mind blown and just boom, living it. We know some of those teachers that have done stuff that's happened to. But there's some kind of wonderful power also, and education in having to have to catch up to something. Mind blown, and then you catch up. Mind blown, catch up. Integration. It's a kindness. It's a loving kindness to the whole system, and it's easier to talk about afterwards instead of like, oh yeah, just be awake. Just yeah, you're already awake. Well, yeah, thank you. Can you give me a little more? So unless there's been like some process there of understanding, it's hard to talk more about it. Right now there's just a pure living of it. It's not a big deal. Like I said, it's never even think about it anymore. There's not even anything to think about. It's like, wow, it's like a dream. It's like, wow, that was a dream. Believing in separation is a dream, and you wake up from that dream. But then you have this conditioning that has arisen from having had that dream for so long. The mind, their neural pathways have been set like superhighways, believing in that dream of separation. The body has taken it to be real, which is an animal in the end, has taken that dream, and it's like it has to also get on board and realize the truth of things, that we're really not separate. Oh, it is such a relief. That's why there's anxiety in the body. That's why there's discontent to the degree we have. That's why there are wars and all these issues that we have, the traumas, that are being played out, the unkindness and the violence. It's all because of this dream of separation. Because when you remember, and when there's remembrance and it's really lived and integrated, as it gets integrated, it's like you just wouldn't treat anyone like that. You just wouldn't. You just realize that we're all just bundles of conditioning, and understanding comes in, and compassion comes in, and also like wanting to do better. Like, I'm not going to do that in that way anymore. I'm not going to talk in that way anymore to people. I'm not going to behave in this way anymore, And love blooms. Love for itself. That's really what happens. Love for itself blooms. And then you do what you do in life. You might be a gardener, or you might be a guitar player, you might be a carpenter, you might be a mother taking care of kids. You might be whatever you do in life, you would have that. You have this understanding. And I happen to be doing this. And who the heck knows why we end up, being partial to doing certain things. That's kind of like that part of the mystery. And I just wanted to speak a little more raw and unfiltered, as if filtering is really my MO. No, but sometimes I try to have like, something. Well, I try to have a drop of something that could be useful for you. You know how one hears that over time with realization, and you hear some teachers talk about it, like not teachers, but like the gurus and the wise ones and all that there's less and less to say, and there's less and less to point to. And, like Ramana, just being as silent as possible, unless someone needed some more than silence, then he was, out of compassion and care, he would give them something more than silence, some words, right? But that's what ends up happening, is that you have less and less to say. And that's what I meant by ordinary. There's less and less to say, and it's like, oh, it's just really no big deal. It's like the wind blowing. In the wind, the wind is a big deal, right? That's a mystery. Like this whole world is a big fat deal. And on the other hand, nature is just itself. And on one hand, it's just so natural. It feels like no big deal. On the other hand, it's amazing, right? It's so not a big deal and it's amazing, you know. Be well as always. I hope there's something useful in this little 20-minute talk. Okay. All right. Take good care.